Okay, this is the Riverside School District 96 regular board meeting on November 20th. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Okay, Mr. Barsadi?
Present.
Ms. Gunn?
Here.
Ms. Kalick?
Here.
Mr. Marhol?
Here.
Mr. Hunt?
Here.
Ms. Claps?
Here.
And Mr. Muirhead?
Here.
Motion or a quorum is present.
Thank you. Is there any public comment tonight?
There's not.
Okay. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda from any of the board members? All right. With that, I will hand it over to Dr. Ryan Toy for the superintendent's report.
Thanks. So you'll see that we have some students here tonight to talk with us. So we have Olivia Lauritsen and Pete Gatz. Pete, obviously, you know, is the principal at Central School, and Olivia is the art teacher at Central School. So why don't the two of you get us started?
Always great to have students present at meetings. So first of all, thank you, all of you, for coming and sharing tonight with everybody that's here, but it's also that's watching. That's not here tonight. The last couple of years, Ms. Lauritsen joined the Central staff and brought her vast experience from throughout the world in the world of art as an artist and as an educator, and what she's brought to the Central students has been an amazing experience. And sometimes those experiences just can't happen during the school day, and so she approached me about Art Club and really taking it and making it into an opportunity for kids throughout the year. So tonight she brought some students with her to talk about what they've been doing and some awesome things that are planned for the spring ahead. So we're looking forward to it, and I'm going to turn the rest of it over to her.
Thank you, Mr. Gatz. So my name is Olivia Lauritsen, art teacher at Central, and I actually want to start off by thanking you all on behalf of District 96. The art teachers came together and created these cards for all of you to say thank you so much for your time and your efforts, and that we really can't do this without you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I know just a little token appreciation, but it means a lot to have your time and your support. So thank you so much. A little round of applause for them. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I love your name tags. I think we did those last year, 2 years ago. Yeah, they're looking good. Thank you. Okay, so art club. First of all, I'd like to say in my own art class during the day, I like to teach. I'm not just teaching about artists and about techniques. I'm also really trying to cultivate artistic behavior within students. And so that means everything from starting them off with some ideas, showing them some artists and techniques, but then really letting them explore with that. And what's so fun about Art Club is that you guys really get to use a lot of different materials. So I came up with a little mission about what our Central Art Club really means to me, and I hope that it carries over to our students. But the Central Art Club offers a dynamic and supportive environment for young artists to explore their creativity and develop artistic skills. Students have access to a wide variety of materials, including paint, clay, fibers, and other media, allowing them to experiment with different techniques and styles. Under the guidance and assistance of myself, I'm not the artist in the room, I'm the artist assistant in the room, participants are encouraged to pursue independent projects that reflect their individual interests and creativity. Whether honing technical skills or exploring new forms of artistic expression, students will gain confidence in their abilities and experience the joy of making art. Here are a few pictures from Art Club. Some students that couldn't make it tonight but wanted to share either what they've made or just in a picture how they enjoy Art Club. Okay, on that note, let's bring up the artists. Okay, who would like to start? Come on up, Mia.
I made this hot dog, but it's like French. And I also made a planet, but it's a soccer ball. and I made me as a superhero. That's it.
Awesome, Mia! So at the beginning of each art club, students were all given sketchbooks, and the first 10 minutes are usually spent on just sketching out different types of ideas, whether that's what they want to make for the day or just some imagination processes that have come throughout the day. All right, who's coming up next? Simone, come on up. Maybe we can even walk around. Would that be nice?
Sure.
I had made this tree. The leaves are beads, and one of the things that I enjoy about art club is that you can really do almost whatever you want in the time, and there's almost no limit to your imagination.
Yeah, great. Tegan, come on up.
My name's Tegan, and I made this pizza out of cardboard and paper and tape.
Yummy. Yeah, Ben, come on up.
Hi, I'm Ben, and I like to make these little eye things. I don't really know what they are. I just make them randomly. So they're almost like little blobs.
Yeah, go for it.
They're a bit small sometimes.
That's cool. Yeah. I like it.
Thanks.
Very cool.
So for art club, I made this shoe out of clay. And what I like about art club is there's really a lot of materials. Like you can sew, you can do clay, you can paint, and more. And this is my shoe.
I like it.
Good shoe.
Yeah.
Better than I could do.
Hello. I really liked art club because you get to use the iPads. We don't usually use iPads. So I like to draw people a lot, and when we use the iPads, I get to draw this person.
Oh, wow.
Very good.
What I really like about art club is all the creativity of people, and what I like about art club is the creativity of people and how little kids are able to express their imagination. And I made a little drawing to show you what my imagination looks like.
Very nice.
Sebastian? Come on up.
So I didn't bring anything to share, but I just wanted to say that I really like art club because you can basically just use all the materials in the art room, and you just get to just make whatever you want.
Awesome. That's all I've got tonight. Thank you so much again for your time and your efforts and letting us have this awesome club of art club. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for any of the artists? That's a good question. Is it going to be continued at Hauser? I think Hauser has an art club.
They do, as
Yeah.
part of their co-curriculars, Miss Buzzer hosts art club, and it sounds pretty similar, where it's the artist gets to be in charge of what they're doing, and she provides lots of materials also, so it will be a great transition.
Great question.
My daughter's actually in it, and I think it's one of her favorite things. So
Okay, and we know for sure there's an art club. Yeah, thank you. What are you thinking?
We use clay a lot once we get to Hauser.
I know there's a kiln at Hauser because that's very important. That's been a top thing. What do you, for those of you that have children at Hauser, you might know better if kids have done clay projects.
I think so, because I think I remember being in that room.
Oh, I know this.
I've seen clay
'Cause it-
projects in the art cases and that kind of thing, so I'm sure you do. I just don't know how much.
Because it's one of your like,
Encore,
elective
yeah.
classes that maybe not everybody chooses to do art, but it is very popular, and I would imagine many of our sixth grade students especially choose to take art.
Well, and I'll just point something out, that there's a gift here that Miss Buzzard is giving to all of the board members, and it's a clay project, and I know this was made by students, so, yeah. Everybody has one. Any other questions from all of you? Or any questions for any of our students?
I was going to ask what inspired you guys to join, but I think most of you said just being able to use your creativity and imagination and stuff like that. Any other reasons what inspired you to join art club? Yeah.
But I think that schools already really did. So like I didn't actually know anything about art club. I just heard that maybe you get to do really fun projects. And I because I'm above and beyond when I started doing the first two projects, you got to like do make what I really wanted, and I think it's really fun. And I just really think it's a really good thing.
So your official art class inspired you to do more of it, is what I'm hearing. So you stayed after school to do more of it? Nice. Yes.
I went to first art, and I do a lot of it at my house. And I also like to do it with my friends and show how they
Yeah. All right. Thank you for sharing.
So I was going to ask, I think we didn't get to see up close the first couple. I don't know, can we?
The people who didn't make the rounds, want to
Yeah.
do a quick round through across the table? Show us at the table?
Would love to see them.
That is so
Nice,
cool.
that looks
I bet it's
awesome.
sparkly
That's
too.
great.
Yeah.
I love that hot dog.
I love that. That's great.
That's so cool.
All right. Making me hungry.
Does that hot dog have a Band-Aid on it? It's a health code.
I love it.
That is awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Thanks to everyone for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And you might have homework or something tonight, so feel free to head back home with your parents, but you're also welcome to stay for the Board of Education meeting. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Olivia.
Is there a Board of Education club at Central?
It's right now.
Or could we do art while we're in our meeting?
I think that's what this paper is.
Yeah, I'll talk to Olivia there.
Absolutely, that's what I'm here for.
Well, and the other thing that Ms. Lawrenson brought up, and you do have some tokens of appreciation here in front of you, the one that Ms. Lawrenson passed out, but also the art teacher from Hauser put together, I'm sure they are student-made projects. And I hope they made extras so that they got to take one home too, and not some poor parent who's missing their, foil pod. So anyway, truly, thank you all for what you do. I think this is an amazing volunteer thing that you all do to really govern and lead District 96. And I've had the pleasure of working with many of you now for 2 years and beyond. So thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
All right, and then I will move on. So I'm sharing with all of you the agenda from our November 14th, what we call Living the Plan session. So I think you're all familiar now. We aim to do it at least twice a year. It's a session where we bring in, a workshop session where we bring in all of the leaders of our action teams for the strategic plan. So you get pretty familiar with our gold champions who are cabinet director level, but also we have some teacher leaders and principals leading some of our action teams. It's really important to us that we sort of talk with each other about all the things that are going on. It really has helped us prevent that sense of sort of silos and the goals existing without interconnection to the other goal areas. So this was our 4-year update. We're 4 years into the strategic plan. Next year being, in theory, the end of the plan. I see it as also the beginning then of a new plan that'll be closely connected to this one. What we're going to do at the December 4th Committee of the Whole meeting is each of the goal champions will go into a bit more detail of what was discussed at the plan, at the Living the Plan session. But for now, just kind of wanted to share that it happened. It was great. I know the group started with a question of how do you see the strategic plan actually coming to life in your own roles and in the schools, and we just had a lot of great feedback about that. So you'll hear more in December, if that's all right. And then a couple of you have asked me, I think people are aware, I know the board is certainly aware, but for those that are tuning in, we had accidental damage, significant damage to the Hollywood playground when one of our own maintenance trucks drove up, unfortunately, over the parking curb and then through the fence and actually into the equipment. So we immediately had to remove all the damaged equipment. Obviously, incredibly grateful and thankful that there were not any children on the playground. It was truly an accident, and we know accidents can happen. We do so much to sort of guard and protect as best we can against accidents from happening. We are looking at, as we bring in the replacement parts, and the replacement parts, Jim, have been ordered, but we don't have a delivery date yet for them. And as soon as they come in, we'd want to install them. What I don't know is if it gets into more wintry months, if that will be a problem and something that would have to wait until spring. The fence will also be replaced, and we are looking at adding concrete or cement bollards. I look at Ramesh, concrete and cement are the same to me, but I know not to other people. So, but reinforcing the area, because it is an area where, even though this is totally an accident and you think it will never happen again, there is an area where the cars are kind of facing the playground fencing area. So that just, it does seem to be the right thing to do to make that extra reinforcement as we make the repair. I know Kim put it in, for those of you that are Hollywood parents, Kim put it in her parent update that comes out on Wednesday, so it came out today, just a message about the status of things. Kids are still able to play on the playground. The zip line is still intact, and a lot of the playground area is still intact. The Gaga ball, they also play cornhole there, and they play soccer, field games out in the field area as well. So it hasn't kept kids indoors. It's just limited the climbing slide structure that was there. Any questions for me about that? And then just one other thing I wanted to share. Angela is leading advanced learning study analysis. As part of curriculum review process, we had shared with all of you, and we'll be sharing more updates along the way as more detail is added, but doing a sort of formal, we are doing a formal program review of our advanced learning programs, supports, and services. As part of that, we're working with the Northwestern Center for Talent Development. They wanted to survey the community, teachers, and students. So what I've shared with you here is the parent, I shouldn't say community, it's really a parent survey. We're not reaching out to parents beyond the district. We are going to be asking all parents to participate, though I know some parents are thinking, well, I don't have a child in the advanced learning program. Do I do the survey? The survey is set up in such a way that we want responses from all parents who are interested and able to take the survey. But again, the survey is scheduled to go out next week. Tomorrow. Right, yeah. So again, not a decision, but I always want you to be aware when a survey is going out to the community that sometimes people will turn to you as board members and ask you about the survey. So are there any questions you might have? I mean, Angela's available. I can answer some of them. Angela's been most directly involved with the work of the committee so far.
Is this survey like the survey suggested by our consultants, or is this a survey that we developed?
It's developed by the Northwestern Center for Talent Development. So.
Based off of standards for advanced learning, accelerated learning, and based off of what research has shown works in different programming, but it's also to get the perspectives of our parents and then with the other two surveys of our staff and our students on what is working and what isn't working currently in our programming. And those questions also come from their research and their past practices.
Yeah. Did anyone take this survey, and how long does it take to complete it?
No one has taken it yet because it hasn't gone live yet.
But as a practice, somebody in the district or anyone at the board today?
It looks a bit long.
Yeah, it does look long. It takes about 15 minutes, they said, to take it. It looks questions, but the questions funnel depending on your answers. So if you have, like there's a question there, I have a student who's in advanced math. So if you have a kid on advanced math, you're gonna get some questions based off of that, but if you don't, then you're not gonna get those questions. Or there's a question there about, I have applied for early entrance. So if you applied for early entrance into kindergarten or first grade, you'll get some questions there, and if you didn't, you won't get some questions. So what you're looking at is every single question that could possibly be asked on the survey, but nobody will get all of those questions because nobody has had all of those experiences.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful.
I had the same question, just if it's helpful.
Oh,
Wow, this is long. Yeah.
It does, right? It's like, it just.
It's also the formatting, I'm sure, doesn't help because all the things are squeezed. But yeah, it felt long. So thank you. That's helpful.
I'm sorry, I know this came up at a prior meeting. I can't seem to find it in my notes, but I don't know if it's a committee or the team is made up of a combination of who at the district?
The 3 elementary advanced learning teachers are on the team. There's an elementary classroom teacher on the team. And then there are 2 middle school teachers on the team. One who teaches an advanced class and there's 3 middle school teachers. 2 who teach advanced classes and core classes, and 1 who teaches core classes only. And then Mr. Marvalis is on as the school administrator, and Ms. Corbin's on as the administrator.
Any other questions for Angela? All right, if anybody asks you about the survey, if they look at it, because we'll go out Google survey or Survey Monkey.
That I will mostly send out from me, school messenger wise. That's the part I'm working on still. And then principals will have access to repeatedly send it.
That's it for the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. With that brings us to the approval of tonight's consent agenda. So could I have the board secretary please read tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, tonight's consent agenda consists of the minutes of the following previous meetings: October 9th, Committee of the Whole and combined regular business meeting, the personnel report as presented, the payables pre-list as of October 31st, along with the payables pre-list as of November 20th, the Riverside School District 96 Leadership Coaching Empowered Teams Catalyst for Educational Change Agreement, D96 Strategic Communication Proposal, and the school fees for the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for the Board of Education to approve tonight's consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Okay, Ms. Claps?
Aye.
Mr. Marhold?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Gunn?
Aye.
Ms. Kalick?
Aye.
And Mr. Mayorhead?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, are there any board member comments of anything that's been happening before we get into old and new business?
I don't know if anyone else got a chance to attend Veterans Day. I don't know what, not really festivities, but the Veterans Day ceremony at their schools. I went to the one at Blythe Park. It's always a great thing to be at, great to attend. All the veterans who are there and giving their stories. It's a great time. I'm really glad I was able to go.
I don't think we were invited to the one at Hauser that I could.
You aren't.
Yeah.
Hauser does it more for the students,
Yeah,
and
that's what it felt
the
like,
choir
okay.
does sing in, the wind ensemble plays. And then if a veteran is in your family, people often accompany the veteran.
Yeah.
It's something we've talked about quite a bit, because sort of getting the just right balance of, we always want parents in the building, we want parents to be able to see their children perform. Really start out as a kind of an instructional opportunity for kids to learn more from veterans about why we celebrate Veterans Day. But this year, you might realize, Nan, that we changed the format at Blythe and at Ames, and we actually live streamed the event into the classroom, so the children stayed in their classrooms so that we could have enough space for the adults to come and watch their children perform. And actually, we got good feedback from teachers, the children being back in their classrooms. And I think at Blythe, maybe 4th and 5th graders were
Yeah, it was just the younger kids were
They would
back
come in to
there.
perform for their grade level, and then they would leave. So seating, we had some, we were way over capacity is what the reality was.
Yeah, every
at
year.
the Central, we are in the auditorium and in the balcony. I don't know, Selena, if you were there. It's crowded, but it sort of, we fit sort of with some hallway spillover. But we got into Point of Ames that was a real occupancy problem. So yeah, so it's really evolved. I agree with you, Dan. I think District 96 does a really great job with honoring veterans and hearing from veterans. I know at Ames there was at least one World War II veteran, which is a rarity, we know, in our world anymore. So
It's also wonderful to hear, and I think I remember it from last year as well. I think the night janitor at Blythe was a veteran and comes to the ceremony and announces himself, and it's just great to hear.
I'll just quickly mention, because there's no other, I think, good place on the agenda to do so, but I was not able to be at the last board meeting. Myself and a couple other board members will be attending the joint conference this weekend, Friday, Saturday. In watching the playback, I know there was discussion of the delegate from the board, and I know at the time we landed Wesley on you, but I'm also, happy to be the delegate. So I don't know that we formally motioned it or anything. We just wanted to throw that out there. We can take it offline, you and I, but wanted the board to be aware that I'm also happy to serve in that capacity.
They gave me the secret password already, so I can
Did
pass
they give
out.
you the golden ticket?
The golden ticket, yeah, the golden. I have the golden
You
ticket.
really do get the gold ticket to enter.
Oh, that is right. They do.
The
I forgot about
delegate.
that. Yeah, they do give you the golden ticket.
Okay.
I don't. I think I picked that up with my packets. We can figure it out on Saturday, but I'm not going to be able to attend Friday, but I'll be there Saturday. So I don't know if any of the rest of you are going to go Friday or not. But
I can't attend Friday either, but I will be there Saturday.
I'll be there both days.
so we can coordinate, figure out which places to go. Having 5 of us, I think we could tackle a lot of ground at the
Yeah.
different things. So we tried to divide and conquer on a lot of that stuff last year, and that worked out pretty well. And then just kind of came together and talked about what we learned. So yeah, coordinate that on Saturday. Should be good. Hopefully it'll be good. It was good last year. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Stephanie. All right, anything else before I move on? Nope. Okay, we have one item for old business, which is the Press Plus 116 policies that we talked through at the last meeting. So I'll go ahead and open it. If we have any other discussion here, we can do that. Otherwise, we can just vote on it. Is there a motion for the Board of Education to approve the second reading and adoption of Press Plus number 116 policies as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, if
Do you want like the high level summary
you know what,
again?
sure, since-
Okay, and I know I
yeah.
wasn't at the last one. Martha was able to present Press Policy 116 updates, which we've known are coming. So at least for now, the 2024 Department of Ed regulations were adopted, which means that they're required to be implemented by Riverside District 96. Some of the predominant changes in the various policies tonight are really just to make things less procedurally onerous, which is really helpful, especially for some smaller school districts. Yes, there were changes to, definitions that are, consistent with state and federal law in Illinois. Some changes around, pregnancy, which doesn't tend to have a huge impact on our district, given the ages of our students. And we did review, I think there was a question about policy 2260 as we utilize Press Plus. And our attorneys did do a side-by-side reading and comparison of 2260 Press Plus and Press. So the one in board book, how do we have it in here? The top one, 2260 in board book is the one that we, hold on, let me look at it one more time. Which one is the one we're adopting? Just looking at the font.
Yeah,
The Press Plus version.
I think it's the second one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The second one is press.
The second one is press, right, but we will be going with the first one. We just wanted to show you both, that the side-by-side comparison was done by the attorneys on those two, but we recommend, moving forward with the first one, which is 2260 under our Press Plus.
Because they're essentially the same.
Yes, yeah. They get to the same thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions, clarifications, or commentary before we vote?
117 is sitting on my desk at home, so that one will be coming up soon.
All right. Kathy, can you call the roll?
Okay, Mr. Marvel?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Gunn?
Aye.
Ms. Kalick?
Aye.
Ms. Claps?
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. We have 2 items for new business discussion. One of them is somewhat of a carryover, but we didn't get to a few of these MOUs last meeting, as well as the tax levy regulatory stuff that we have to do and need to approve for tonight to get that levy in with our legal timelines. Before we jump into this, just as a carryover from last week, I just want to make a couple comments, like trying to tie some of this stuff together. One of the biggest things I heard walking away from the table was a variety of concerns just on the process and these things kind of landing in our lap to discuss and vote the same day, which is something that we've talked about a lot. So going back on that, I had a conversation with Dave and Joel as finance and facilities, as well as Martha as we were prepping for this. Actually, in order of that, I went Martha first, shared some ideas, kind of came to some agreements. She got a little bit further ahead than what I was actually expecting for tonight. And so that's where this memo really came from, with a little bit of more coordination in here. Had that same philosophical conversation with Dave and Joel of just how do we, we're a self-regulating body, so how do we control this situation better? And so hopefully the memo in here really outlines more of that procedural aspect of it so that we could try to get out of the why do we keep having stuff put at the table and asked to vote on it last minute when many of us were unaware. And even going through for myself on the Blythe windows and the boiler, I went back to a number of different meetings and that hadn't really been brought up even as like an agenda item. So I totally appreciate where others were kind of coming from on, I don't know that the boiler was a surprise. I think it was a surprise that it was on the agenda without further discussion from like earlier meetings and things like that. But the proposal that Martha and team put together for us here was really tying this into the tax levy. This is the season where we end up putting the levy in, and then was it February? I think we start talking about the actual budget once we understand the levy approved. We have some big ticket items here, more than what we had actually originally planned. So kind of talking with David about when we have these bigger ticket items, how do we actually get that into the budget, have those budget reflects it. So now is about that time when we really should be talking about those really big ticket items for the next summer, and then we can put those in the budget, have, if we decide to go with this, a $3 million budget instead of a standard $1 million budget, things like that. So that was, that memo was really just trying to help self-regulate ourselves and ensure that we have the proper cadence and timelines and expectations of what we need in order to make appropriate decisions of spending money and just other things that we have. So that's where the memo came from, and I wanted to kind of tie these two things together. So I don't know, do you want to talk levy first? I got that as number 2, or do you want to tie them together, or how do you want to?
If anyone has any questions on the spreadsheet or the memo, and then I want to give one update to the memo, and that's that we want to postpone the Blythe Park window replacement until the next summer, so we can take our time and get everything done.
So we're just proactively going ahead and do that. So we have that as an MOU on here. Do we want to talk about that at all if we're going to actively postpone it?
That one will.
Jim, you're talking about postponing construction, but I thought the thought was that DLA would still need to pursue a design and go through all the appropriate historical stuff so that we could get to a point for 2026 construction.
Okay.
Now that doesn't, an MOU for the windows would not necessarily need to be approved today because they would have ample time
And we don't have any, there was no formal recommendations for voting on this tonight either, so, but yeah, just, again, that long tail, long, not tail, long window of opportunity into the future, yeah.
It's better with design if there's lead time prior to construction. Obviously, it gives us both an opportunity to vet the proposal and think about what we really need when we come to capital expenditures, and then also it gives the architect an additional time to do their research and do their design so that they come up with something creative and appropriate for our facilities.
So wasn't this something that we already voted on at the last meeting?
We voted this down.
Okay, so then is it being proposed that we vote for it again?
No, these are all new business items for discussion.
Okay.
Right, and actually the
Meaning
tie was
that
sort of
we
a not pass, and it was unclear if it was over timing or really the not needing the windows replaced. But as Ramesh and Jim have taken a closer look, it can wait a year. That's what you're saying? That's a postponement.
I mean, I guess my thought on the windows, my vote wasn't against the windows. It was we have to do the windows. It was just the timing and when we were going to do it. So
Mine was neither of those things. So mine was more so, I don't think that the process that we went through to get to the point where it should just be one bid shown to us was appropriate. I think that we should be collecting more bids to make sure that we are getting fair pricing from our architect. Pardon me?
From the architect?
From the architect.
Okay, so I think we do need to talk about that separately.
Can I
Yeah,
share,
go ahead.
Okay. This, I think, will help your look at or start the discussion on fees, professional fees. So if you could pass it that way.
And Ramesh, since you're here, I might have you kind of help with architect.
Ramesh, I can give you this. I'll explain what it is in a moment. There's a copy there. There's two pieces of paper there for each person. Pull one off the front, pull one off the back. What this is this is for the fee discussion, or how professional fees are determined. And I think Selena and I had a side conversation. Generally with professional services, any institution selects a professional services provider, be it architect or engineer or accountant, based on their supposed skill set. And many years ago, we had a interview process where we selected DLA. And then with that, we continue to engage with them as the architect.
But we are not limited to just engaging with them as our architect.
We are not. But what I provided to the group was my words. I may be tripping over my words a touch. When we engage with a professional services provider, they develop a fee that is supposed to be based on the complexity of the work. It is the qualifications-based selection. So that fee is not something that we bid for, or you don't bid out professional services. You select the provider, and then you may negotiate with the provider about their fee after you've got them on board.
So if I might, to maybe better understand, at least for me. So essentially, you're saying the fees here in this.
I'm going to go to that in a moment.
Yeah, but I guess the fees here that you presented are sort of what the industry standard is across the board for.
The pages that I provided are directly out of the State of Illinois Capital Development Board, and I can pass this off. Sure. And that is a document that provides guidance to all of the various agencies within the state about where fees should fall and what architecture services should look like. the pages that you have here are just pulled from there.
Is this as of 2012?
That is the
says on the
most
bottom?
current. Yes, that is the most current. If you'll notice on the sorry, now I'm talking too much. Say that again, please.
No, I'm just wondering, like, this version says that it's from 2012, so I just wanted to know if this is in fact a current rate table.
Yes, that is their most current rate table. There's
And then-
actually a rate table in the back of the 16-page document, I believe, that shows what the rates used to be.
Okay.
They are marginally higher in this most recent
And then
version.
on your other point about like negotiating with an architect, like, look, I've hired architects before. You can select an architect based on the price that they are going to charge for that service. So I'm not saying that we're going to like
we don't
competitive.
do that as a public agency. We're not supposed to do that.
As a public agency, we are not supposed to
You do
engage
not-
with more than one
You are
architect
not
to get the
supposed
best
to
price.
bid out services. Correct.
So we have policy on professional services agreement. So we did request for proposal a number of years ago. We invited architecture firms to come in and interview with the board for the position. And so we do have an architect of record. Our preferred architect is DLA. I did talk to our attorney. There's one other way you can bring in an architect, and that is, I believe it's you have to bring in a small project that's not a biddable project. You can bring them in to work with you on a project that is then below the $35,000 threshold. And once they have worked with you on a smaller project, they become one of your architects of record, and you could then, in theory, work with them again on a different project.
But you're not pitting them against each other.
Well, that's what would be very.
I mean, this is not
Yeah,
pitting against. This is like just participating in the marketplace and making
No,
sure that we
no,
get the best
you're
Right.
rates.
And I guess when I talked to Wesley about it, I guess the way I look at it, the way we've gone about this, I think I understand your point, and I think it's like good. Like you look at insurance, you should review it every so often. But it's important to build this relationship, which we've had. But at the same token, if we're going to bid out like an architect, and then have them go out and bid out then for the construction for that, it's just we're essentially doubling the lead time to do something. Because if we're going to say, okay, we got one architect for Hollywood, one architect for Ames, because their fees are, it's going to really slow down. In my opinion, it's going to really slow down the process, and we're not going to be able to move forward on a lot. And so I think we should just look at the fees, but to like bid out all the time to be competitive for like various projects, I think it's just going to slow us down.
Okay, so when is the last time that we sort of reviewed this as being our architect of record and made sure that they were offering us competitive rates in the marketplace? And like I see that there's, you know, they're always, it's always being listed like this is what, you know, at this level of experience we're getting charged this per hour, but it seems like we're often just getting charged flat rates, no?
For
like the windows and the
invoice.
boiler, they're sending us flat rates, but then attached to those proposals is like hourly rates for each of those
The
levels of
hourly rates
experience.
were for extra work beyond what the lump sum design fee is. So
Okay.
what we're seeing in the MOUs is a lump sum design fee to do that element, that design for that thing. So boiler has a lump sum fee, the roof has a lump sum fee, so those fees are commensurate with the effort needed to put the plans and bid package and construction oversight and contract closeout together. And then if they had to do work that was above and beyond that scope, then those
rates would
hourly
apply.
rates come into play.
Got it.
Yeah. Ramesh, do you want to comment? So Ramesh is actually an architect by training, right?
Yes.
He's hired as our owner's rep, and so one of the things that Ramesh does, and perhaps it's more behind the scenes, but Ramesh does negotiate on our behalf around the rates that DLA first proposes. So an MOU that you're seeing is not often the first pass at an MOU.
Correct. And as Joel mentioned, every project is unique. Even though you may say windows at Blythe Park or at Hollywood, they're totally different because at Blythe Park they're historic. There's much more regulation, rules that they have to go through. So there's complexity that's involved in it. So when we start out these projects, my firm actually builds a budget for each of these projects, a preliminary budget, which is what they base their number, the design fee on. And so far, in the last 5 years that since we've been involved with these projects, we've always brought these projects within budget. That's number one. At bid, we receive multiple bids, and the architect's fees have always fallen within the ranges from the stable that we've talked about, even when we've had extremely complex projects. So there is a negotiation that goes on between my firm and DLA before the MOU is written. And many times I bring it to Martha and Jim and say that we disagree with this fee, we need to bring it down to this number. We go through that process. And what you're seeing is a negotiated number, number one. And as a percentage of the overall project, the architect's fee is relatively lower as compared to where the construction costs are, which is the big dollar values. And that's always an open bid. It's not a negotiated bid that we enter into. And that's where we get the true value of our projects. And the key out here is to try and keep it all within the original capital improvement plan.
That's helpful explanation. And I appreciate you being here tonight to bring that to the table. I guess my concern is just that it doesn't seem like when I'm asking when's the last time that we did a competitive process, it doesn't seem like anyone has an answer for me on that.
Joe was gonna
So that's 5 years.
2019
when we started all of this stuff. That's
Okay.
when we went out to bid for an RFP. It was right before I got onto the board. We picked DLA, and they have been with us for 5 years to build out all of the 5-year vision that we've had for the district.
When I started here in 2016, there was a different architect. We did have a different architect.
I get the idea that like some people view this more as a partnership than as a client relationship. Look, like we were presented architecture fees at the last meeting. I was not the only one with the initial thought that these seem significantly higher than I would expect them to be. And so, look, I just want to explore that. I want to make sure that we're getting a competitive price for architecture services. And it seems to me that the answer is always DLA, and it's an easy way for us to pick up the phone and call them and know that they're our partner. But I want to make sure that that we're getting a competitive bid.
So let me also clarify one thing. The other reason why, yes, it makes sense it behooves us to go out and look at multiple architects over, say, 5-8 years, so you can see fresh, who else is there in this business. There are a lot of school-based architects, absolutely. And we could go out and look at, qualifying architects. But the important thing to remember out here is that the knowledge base that has been gained by DLA is not getting transferred to a new firm. So when we go out on these projects, and all our construction schedules are extremely tight, in the sense that we do most of our work during the summer vacation time. So, for example, the boilers have to be done within that 3-month period. Now, the information gained by DLA over the years from their inspections, from the failures that we've had, that is information that will not be available to a new architect. So there is it's a huge loss for us if we hire a new architect on day one and they don't have that knowledge base. So the fees are competitive, the timeline is correct, and they've brought it within budget every time. They're really, I would say that they're checking all the boxes that are useful from a district standpoint. If they had failed, if some of the projects didn't work out, we were over budget, and we had a lot of change orders, there's absolutely a reason why we have red flags and we would say they're not performing up to the standard that they met, that was required. But I don't see any reason the last 5 years, I can mention every one of the projects has come within budget, on time, and we've actually returned monies to the board as well. The only time we've run into an issue was when we did the Ames tuck pointing last year. If you recall, we had to rebuild the parapets, but that was not an architectural issue because we had to dismantle the brick before we found the problem. We didn't do an investigation. The there was a timeline issue, and besides school's in session, we can't dismantle brick at that time. So that was the only change order that we actually presented. Otherwise, we worked within all our budgets, and DLA has been a very cooperative partner with us in all these endeavors. They've come and we've asked for presentations, they've gone and met with students, parents, they've done all their work, and they have that knowledge base, which I believe is very valuable going forward.
Well, and to defend what you're saying, when I first saw this 2 weeks ago, I did look at the fees, and I was a little bit taken aback, and that's why I started going into the state guidance, and that's the sheet with the colored boxes on it, the fee rate table. There's a table at the bottom that shows the percentage of, the architect's fee as a percentage of the construction work. And if you look at each one of those numbers, you will see that in general, the architect is in general, they are always within the low and high ranges that the state suggests. And in addition to that, they're generally below the midpoint fee. So, as far as I can tell, based on the type of work that's being done, whether it's complex, which is a boiler, or more simple, like a roof, their numbers are about right for the work that's being performed.
Would any architect give us a different fee structure than is off this table?
For all public work, this is actually a very good guideline. Private work is different because the ranges are completely different. It's negotiated upfront. You can go one-on-one, you can invite, you can have a competition. There are various processes for that. But in general, in all our negotiations with them, I have managed to trim their fees. I've kept all their allowances well within the ranges out here, and really not had an issue where they've come back and said, we need to get paid extra. They have not done that. Even a project that looks simple, for example, the Hollywood roof, it is not simple because from a standpoint of a project, it's a relatively small project, but they still have to do all the same services as if the roof was a 100,000 square foot roof, number one. Number two is, when they started the investigation, after they gave me their fee, they found a huge number of challenges. The roof slopes the wrong way. They have to fix that. They've not come back and asked us for additional fees either. They have to hire a structural engineer in their group who has to re-slope that steel. They have to pay that from that fee that they've negotiated in the MOU to them. So again, they've always been a good partner with us. I mean, I feel that that's worth something. I mean, they've now come back and said, they could easily have come back and said, we have to pay $12,000 to a structural engineer to fix the slope in the roof before we start. They have not done that because they have 4 projects out here. I went and told them that between all the 4 projects we're doing out here, can't we find the monies to do it? And they said yes. And that's worked in our favor.
We've had a few contractors that were of unknown quality to us, and they did not pan out well.
Correct.
Either. So I think just to translate that into construction, I remember the Hollywood thing was a real headache, mostly for you. What, 3-4 times we had to redo some of those things.
Right.
And
I mean, when
we're
we
never
go
going to hire them back again.
in a competitive bid, we have to go with the lowest qualified contractor. That's what we go with. That doesn't mean he's the best contractor. We had huge problems at the Hollywood project 2 years ago. The contractor was a failing contractor, but he had checked all the boxes in our pre-qualification list. His references came through. But once he started, he had a poor superintendent, poor workers, but yet we finished the project, we finished it in budget, but there were challenges. There's always an issue of an unknown quantity when you go into a competitive bid, but I'm not saying it's the wrong way. Over time, you can develop a relationship with the second and the third architect as well. But here, we have a master services agreement with DLA. They've performed well for us. I mean, if they had failed, and I think there would have been an issue that we could have brought up with them and say, this was a challenging project, what happened? Absolutely. And it's not that we don't have that argument with them. I've had issues. I've sat down with Steve Wright and with Ryan Kelly and said, these did not go well. These details need to be simplified. They need to be, better vetted. We've gone through that, but that's what you hire me for.
Exactly.
I'll also say, just as the superintendent and Jim, I think would say the same, that there are also things that aren't projects, that are just times we need the architect to come in and take a look at something, right? Whether it's something we're worried about in a ceiling. I can think of a lot of times where it's like I can call Ryan and say, could you come over here and just look at something for us? I want to make sure that this is okay. And that's where that partnership comes in. That's all, not necessarily about the specific project
There's
that
no
they're
fee
working
for
on.
that.
Right.
I mean, at Central, if you recall, 2 years ago, we converted that toilet into a teacher space. There was no fee for that. They just did it because they are part of our team.
And we pay them very well.
There was no additional fees
we pay
for
them
that.
appropriately.
We pay them fairly and
Yes,
appropriately.
they're professionally paid, yes. There's no doubt about that.
Accountants and lawyers are the same way. We
I
don't.
agree, but like, let's not sit here and act like they're doing us favors. We're their client and we pay
Correct.
them.
But I guess
They're
well.
paid
We're
fairly.
a client and they're a
I
partner
think
of ours.
that's,
Right.
Yeah.
to your point, I think they're paid fairly. They're paid at the appropriate rates for professional services.
But I guess my question is, to your point, yes, they're paid professionally, but if we went to somebody who's a lesser bid, would they then be charging us to like come out and do things?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you can pay now or you can pay later, I guess it is. And to me, yes, I do think we need to evaluate every now and then, but at the same token, there's a lot to be said about a relationship. And to Ramesh's point, they've been good partners. I mean, expensive partners, but they've been good partners, and so that's, I guess, where you pay for what you get. So.
Absolutely, but I'm not even sure I agree that they're expensive partners.
Yeah, I would note this is surprising to see that, and Joel mentioned they're coming in below the midpoint, and that's what I'm seeing here. So that is,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Most of the
the last
time, I
meeting.
don't question the fees because I know you have already negotiated these down. Sometimes it's explicitly stated, sometimes it's stated like in a conversation or something like that. But I mean, seeing where we fall in this bid, knowing this is the standard process for the world that we live in public service. Yeah, I think I am in a service industry where we value partnerships, and I am not the cheapest on the market, and you can go find somebody cheaper. That's fine. I'm not going to be cheap because I know what I bring to the table, and I'm willing to walk away from it. And so I would caution us to get too deep into some of this. I think it's fair to make sure we're getting a fair deal, but that is why we have you, and it seems like everything usually shakes out. So I think a lot of us were surprised at how big it was. But even like, honestly, I was in that boat. I was like, how could it cost this much for a roof at Hollywood? You just helped me understand that a little bit better. So I think if we can go out for an RFP, it has been 5 years. I would say general guidance would be 5-6 years. Just test it if you want to. But I think, to your point, Ramesh, I've been nothing but happy with what DLA has done. I've been in all of these buildings. It's been amazing. It's been on time. It's been on budget. I just... 4 of us would have to agree to go out to RFP. I believe that would be like an official vote to do that. So we can absolutely do that. I think we just need to be careful with some of the conversation here, because I think there's a lot of things we have done to get in DLA's way over the last 5 years as well. I don't think it's always just been on them with some of the things that we gripe about, quite honestly.
When we started with DLA, it was a slightly tense relationship, and they ended up, beginning, and they switched out their project managers, which is why we got Steve, and he's been truthful and forthright and has not created any kind of tension, at least in me. That was part of my issue with Carrie at the beginning, and she was with DLA, and they switched out, and we've been pretty smooth sailing since then. And like I said, I started this exercise and looking at the range of fees because I equally had some doubts. Now, having looked at the numbers and what is the state guidance, I'm comfortable that DLA is putting their, and Ramesh, sorry, I should give you more credit here, but we are being charged a fair and appropriate price for the work that they're doing.
And just to clarify, another thing is that the capital improvement program we started after 2019, after we built the big addition at Ames, the idea out there was to make our buildings weather-tight. That was masonry, windows, and roofing. Those were the three key elements that we started out to do it. And we had a building assessment done. We hired a roofing consultant, if you remember IRCA, Illinois Roofing Consultants, and DLA did building assessments. And these projects were all specified over a 5 to 7 year range, whether we are tuck pointing, whether we're doing windows. So I'm sorry that we didn't bring this up and show you an overall schedule showing that, 25 we're going to do this, 26 we're going to. A lot of these projects happen so fast. If you recall, last year we were really busy with the Central Hauser project, so the timelines moved really quickly on us. And it does seem like it's a rush. I must really apologize for that process. I mean, we could have been a bit more, specific in giving you an overall schedule as to how these projects are coming. That's why I mentioned to Jim and to Joel today that we should postpone the Blythe Park one because it's going to be an extremely challenging schedule to meet because the windows would take anywhere from 16 to 20 weeks to procure. And if we miss any date, the school will have no windows when they open up in fall next year. So it behooves us to approve the design, finish off the historic preservation approvals, which are happening right now. We pay only DLA for the design portion of it, and we go out at a much more leisurely pace next year. So that way in 26, we can approach those windows. So we can that way split some of the costs out between the 25 capital improvement and the 26. While the boiler project is critical, the boiler is way past its expected useful life. It really should be replaced, and I believe we're going to get a very good price because this is a very good market to go into. The tuck pointing should be done because, as you know, we've done tuck pointing at all the schools. We've done it piecemeal. We've had a leak later within 6 months. We've had issues. That's why I proposed to the board that we go about doing comprehensive tuck pointing at each of the buildings. We did it at Hollywood. We finished it at Ames. Those are good for 20 to 30 years now. They're solid tuck pointing that's been finished. We wanted to deal with water infiltration through the brick anymore. It's done. We've done 100%. The same thing should be done at Central and Hauser. But since Central is a historic building, we said we're going to split it. We can't do that this year. So that's why there's a process to this whole approach that we're going through. And the idea was to get tuck pointing at Central done, to finish off the boiler, and then to do the roof at Hollywood. Those are critical. I mean, I believe that they form well within our CIP plan that we had set out to do a few years ago. So that's what the recommendation was. As I said, I must apologize that these things came at you suddenly. They shouldn't have. We should have an overall schedule for you to show you all the projects that are coming. But we do discuss these in our facilities committee meeting that we hold every month.
Well, and to your point, Ramesh, we do have the table that's been provided by Jim that lays out kind of here's potential projects as well as the years that they would be built or implemented. And we've always said, kind of repeating what you said, but we've always tried to we're looking at a state of good repair and always making sure that the envelopes of the buildings are in good shape because water and air intrusion are expensive.
The projects look expensive. It's because we've done it piecemeal previously. We're doing it comprehensively this time. We're not repairing a boiler. We can always make a boiler last another 2 years, but it could fail in the middle of winter, and then what happens? We're trying to avoid those kind of problems, and it behooves us to do it on a timely basis. And if a boiler has given us 20, 25 years of service, you should replace it so that you avoid major problems. That's the recommendation.
Yeah. So to come back to that, just circling back to the memo piece of it, which is what you're talking about here, Ramesh, with the schedule in it, I think this kind of gets back to Selena's main point, is having these things brought to the table now to give us that window. And I appreciate you apologizing. I really don't think this is any one person's issue. I mean, I think there's a degree where we mismanage some of this stuff on our own accord, right? Like, it's not all falling on your shoulders. So I appreciate the apology or falling on the sword, so to speak. But I think it it was a culmination of events that got us here. I think it sparked a really good conversation. I think this is also a really good conversation as well. And now we have a better timeline to hopefully stay ahead of this stuff, self-govern ourselves a little bit better. You've got a bunch of recommendations here that I don't know that in the interest of time for tonight, I don't know if we need to go through each MOU because we're going to pause the windows, which was more time sensitive. I think we could pick up the other ones probably January.
The design portion should proceed because we plan to go out to bid now because there's a timeline, because we need to get, remember, once we get the bids in, the written budget, we make a recommendation for the board to award it. And the awarding needs to take place in January. MOUs are purely for the design services. It's not for the construction.
Right.
But
The boiler was,
the boilers
The boiler was
we
approved.
approved the boiler MOU, so that, and can you remind me
So
what we
the-
did?
I think we're saying, can we wait until either December regular board or even January, Hauser masonry, Hollywood low roof replacement?
The design,
security camera.
we're not, DLA can't pause because otherwise we'll miss our window to do the construction next year.
Yeah.
They have to proceed with design.
For what?
For at least the 3 projects that we intend to look at next year.
So the roof and the camera.
And the windows.
The
Windows
roof,
we're gonna remove, right?
Right.
the windows we're gonna take out, they're just gonna
Project
proceed
is
with just the
removed,
pure
but
design.
the architecture
The-
fee MOU is still in play, am I right in here?
Pardon me?
So I think we're saying the project is delayed for Life Park windows, but I think the MOU for
Yes, and
architecture fees, we still need
Even
to
the architectural
discuss that.
fees, only part of it will be committed because they include their construction administration portion too. That will not be committed because until we go out to bid and receive a valid contractor, that doesn't come into play. But they always give us a comprehensive fee for design and construction. So we only would be committed to the design phase.
Are you suggesting that we need to approve tonight the design fees for DLA for all of these projects in order for them to stay on schedule? I'm not sure I'm
They're not
understanding
listed as
correctly.
action items.
Right.
We
Yeah.
purposely
I
don't
wasn't
list as
prepared to
action,
vote on
yeah.
that specifically, but
Yeah.
DLA is willing to take the risk and proceed with that design because they know that they can't afford to miss that January board. Because we plan to go out to bid in December on some of these projects.
For the roof and the
For the
masonry
roof.
repair.
Right, and the tuck pointing. You won't have to make a decision on the award, provided it's within budget, till January.
So I guess,
go ahead.
so what are the design fees then for these? 'Cause I was looking at these and I'm sure I'm probably just overlooking it, but I don't see the design.
The
They're
design
not
fee is
shown
there in the
on-
MOUs.
They're not shown on.
Oh, okay. No, not on that, but on the MOUs.
Oh, if you, they're on
They're on
the table with the colored chart, they're there.
Yeah.
And then they're also on page 258 of the agenda, which is just the long-range maintenance considerations.
Okay, so it's there. It's-
Yeah, it's down at the bottom.
Okay.
Roof replacement, the architect fee was $25,296. The camera assessment was $25,150, and the Hauser tuck pointing was $67,054.
But that's the full design and construction.
Right, that's the,
That was the
right.
design. That was the architect fee.
Architect's fee, yes.
Right, no, I understand.
I guess my biggest
Because
concern
that-
is I punted 3 of these MOUs from last meeting.
Right, but I guess my question is that 68,000 or that's like everything. That's assuming that price. So I'm just
It's comprehensive.
right. It's comprehensive. So what?
If you go to, I'm gonna
Well,
stand
hold on,
up.
before we get too
Yes.
deep into this, we have not talked about any of these MOUs at all. Like, are we all on board with proceeding with all of these projects? Because this was first brought to the table last week, and in the interest of time, we talked about the 2 important ones, windows and boilers. We have not talked about any of these other projects. And they total $3-some million. So I guess I was under a different impression on needing even design stuff now. I didn't think all of these, I thought it was just the windows and the boilers that were going to bid in December.
That is correct, but we can't stop the design. Because we have to finish the documents, we prep them, so DLA has not stopped right now, they're still proceeding. Now what I would suggest is, The Blythe Park windows, we will stop, because we can wait. We're going to just go through historic preservation, get the approval. That means once we pass that, it's relatively clear sailing next year into the 26 construction period.
So we're stopping construction but not design.
Not the design, so we stop. But the Blythe Park, the Hollywood roof replacements, they're going to continue design because we have to go out to bid in December so that we can get a board approval in January, provided the bids come in budget.
I'm guessing what I'm saying is I don't know that do we want to go out to bid in December? We haven't talked about any of these MOUs, so I guess I'm confused as to.
We can, let me rephrase this, make it a little bit better. The boiler project has a long lead time, so it is done.
Yeah.
So that's done. We can delay the bid process for the roof and the duct pointing till January.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Because the contractor has no lead time in either of those. They come in straight and they start construction. So we just need to have someone in play by March.
There's no materials to be
There's no
purchased,
materials to be
right?
procured.
That's where we had kind of differentiated
There's
that.
no long lead.
So we
No
can
long
wait.
lead time materials to be.
We can wait till
Roofing,
March.
Yeah.
What about
For
the
the
security?
Pardon?
What about the
The
security?
security system, that's an assessment, that's not
Okay.
the whole design. So that one, it's up to the board as to how you intend to proceed with that. If the board feels that we want to execute this work in summer of '25, the design needs to be, the assessment needs, that's the first step. That's not the design portion, the assessment needs to be completed now.
But it's probably not as time sensitive around a December vote,
No.
right?
Right,
I mean, I
okay,
think
yeah,
what
that's
you're
what I
all
was
saying
thinking.
is,
No,
That's what I was
yeah.
and again, I don't want to get too far off of this, but I did have a question of, just how appropriate they were for this project. I mean, they're an architecture firm. Do they have folks who work in this? Is this something they've done before? That would just be something
For the
I'd be
camera
interested.
stuff.
Yeah, the camera, the security
They
stuff.
have a security consultant as part of their team.
So they're not just farming it out to someone else?
No. They have a security consultant as part of their team. That's why we gave them the original assessment of the work that was done. They brought in a security consultant who's done school work, who's come with a reputation, yes.
Their consultant is someone called Low Voltage Solutions Incorporated, and they are a security/information technology company.
The same firm that worked with Don. They're familiar with our buildings.
So I guess I have a question. Do we want to discuss, are we talking about discussing doing these?
I mean, I think that's the starting point.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
we just approved about $1 million, and we got another 2.1
Right.
million, and we haven't really
So I guess do we want to discuss, seeing that we can just push this out a little bit for the discussion, do we want to start discussing them tonight? Do we want
We've not
to
approved $1 million yet. We've approved the
The
process to
MOU.
get to.
right. But
Right.
we've
Yes.
designed it. We're going to go to bid, and we are going to award a bid
Our intent is.
of some
What's our
number that is
intent?
very,
Our-
very large that is going to go into next year's budget.
Our intent would be that we have to do boiler replacement.
Right.
yes.
So let's just round up to $1 million just to make the conversation easy. We have another estimated $2.1 million on here with fees and potential actual design and build cost, or not design, construction costs. So I guess what I was thinking from last meeting is, are we ready to put a $3 million of capital projects on these? Windows are gone, so I guess we could take that $1 million off the table,
So-
but the design architect fee piece stays,
Not the full one.
Yeah.
not the what?
You're only committed to the design portion, not the construction fee.
The way the MOU is written is it's broken out into design and then construction, inspection,
Administration.
and administration and closeout.
So just sort of taking the Hollywood, 'cause I have it up in front of me, it's Hollywood, so it's like 25,000. So the design is a portion of that,
Correct.
and so, okay.
It's not broken out on the MOU.
Right.
Yes, it would be a smaller amount.
It's
the design
broken
portion is
out.
about 12 to 14,000, and construction, that's about 8,000.
It's-
So I guess, maybe let me say it this way. We can always reject the bids and just say we're not going to do the project at all.
Correct.
So we would be proposing a relatively immediate spend of $200,000 for all four of these projects. We don't have to move forward with the construction aspect of it if we don't want to.
It's not 200,000.
It's $200,000 for architect fees.
design.
But that's,
Boiler's
the
already
architect, that's
been
all
approved.
in. We're only paying for the design. So if we decide not to approve.
It would
so-
be less. It would, we
Right,
don't know the
so
amount.
taking
It would be
Hollywood,
less.
Hollywood's 25,000, I'm just making this number up. We do the design, we pay 12,000. The other 13,000, if we don't do the roof,
Okay.
we don't pay that.
That's not what's okay. All right, I'm with you now. Okay. Do we have Do we have the breakout of that then already? Is that part? That's the part that's in the MOUs.
That's the
It's
part I was
actually in
asking,
the-
but
it's
it's
in
not
the
in
Well, we
master
could probably get it for
agreement.
next time. Would that make sense? I don't
Yeah, I
think
just-
we're voting on these tonight, correct?
Yeah.
In the master agreement. Wesley, the capital development board book is right there. I'm gonna just come over to you, or I'll just take it.
There you go.
This actually has recommended breakouts of what portion of the fee is for certain elements of work. I'm assuming that I did not read it, but the master agreement has something similar, and basically it says program analysis and schematic design is 20%, design development is another, design development and bidding documents is about 50%. And then bidding and construction and project closeout are fairly, a little bit more than 30%. So about 2/3 of the fee in the MOU represents the design work to get to something that is biddable.
Okay.
And then the other third of the fee is what happens when we go to bid and when it gets built,
Go ahead.
approximately.
Well, look, like I think we're talking like bid prices versus like the architect price, service fee. Like the reality is the only reason that we're going out and having these design plans done is because we realize that there's a need, and so we should just count on the project being done eventually, right? So like,
Most likely, yes.
like
will have to-
let's not
yeah.
Mickey Mouse that, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Like
If I'm gonna bid it, I'm gonna buy it.
we need it. They're needs, right? They're not. They're not even just
We
wants.
will need to do the, we
But-
need to do
but
the
I guess-
roof, and the tuck pointing is,
But to your point, Wesley, I mean, these are maintenance items, and they're going to go into the budget next year. And so I guess the debate should be, the security cameras obviously are something maybe not as time sensitive, but the other stuff is maintenance, and are we going to need to do it? So that's the question, is looking at this list here is like, how do we need to do this in 2026? I mean 2025. That's the question. I think we should be
Yeah.
discussing.
And-
And so,
Based on the memo, we should have been having this discussion in September, right? So that we have September, October, November to have all this debate, not 2 weeks before or the day of us needing to vote on it.
Right, no,
So
right.
I'm trying to tie it all together of like, we're in this pickle because we didn't
right, and
do
so,
this earlier.
But Ramesh said we could postpone the voting on this until March, right? Or
January.
Well, he needs-
January.
Okay.
So we have time to discuss this. I mean, we have, granted, it's the end of the month, but we got next month to discuss this as well. So,
Okay.
I mean, and in my opinion, if we're discussing maintenance items, it's more of like, how important is it that we do it now? Can we get an extra year, 2 years? What's the importance? I mean, because I guess for me, maintenance, we need to do it. It's not an option. It's going to have to happen at one point. We just don't want like the roof to become beyond repair where it's going to then cost twice as much. If we're
Yeah,
just
no,
doing
I
it. So-
totally agree with you on that. I'm all about, staying ahead of it. Don't wait until
Right.
stuff breaks down. It costs you more when
Yeah.
it breaks down, all that kind of stuff. Okay.
I guess just one point that I'd like to make is that while the camera assessment may not seem like a maintenance item, I do believe that there's a great deal of importance for that. I think that the people who allow access into our buildings need to make sure that they can see who's outside of the buildings before they open the doors. And so I think that is a more of a security issue and is very important.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I'm not saying it's not maintenance. It's definitely maintenance. It's like buying a new computer. You buy a new computer every so often.
But I believe we do have cameras.
But
We do have cameras. So
But-
just to call that out, we do have
Right, so we do
a
have
minimal appropriate.
Right.
This is more of assessing what else we could do,
Right.
not that we need to
Correct.
do
Yeah.
something. It's what
Yes.
else
Yeah.
can we do. So I don't feel that that is as critical as a roof necessarily. I'm not trying to debate whether we do it or not, but just we do have cameras, we do have the security, we do have all of those
And we do have a
processes
roof,
in place.
so.
We do have a roof. For the tuck pointing and the roof replacement, like my interpretation of your memos and all that kind of stuff does, like, we really do need to jump on that. Like, maybe we could delay it a year, but it really should be done this year. Yeah.
There's going to be more the year
These things are
after
old. We
keep
need to start
doing-
getting
it's-
up on them. Yeah,
It's not
okay.
even, it's that there is a regular cycle to building maintenance.
Which gets me back to, if we're going to move forward with the design, I'm planning on bidding, I'm planning on buying, so I need to be prepared to spend $2 million more than I just approved last week. So we should have been having this conversation in August or September to get us to this point, so that we're not arguing like this.
We'll take
I guess
out
one
the-
thing is we
we'll
don't need to
take out
vote
the
tonight. We
million
don't need to vote
for-
next week.
Correct.
Park windows.
Right. So
But we do need to vote quickly.
we do need to vote quickly. But I
Yes.
guess my question is, how much discussion do we need to have on maintenance items? Because this is stuff we have to do to just maintain the properties. So
I
I
would
guess
like to be more prepared to spend this much money.
I agree, and I think that we look when we are adding positions on our staff, we require these highly developed presentations on why there is this need for an extra teacher or why there is this need for extra support services. I realize that those are ongoing costs to add staff, but I think that the same level of presentation and thought should be given around stuff like this, because in time for us to contemplate, right? Yeah.
And going forward, we definitely have a schedule in late summer where we'll bring up the projects that are being discussed for the next CIP, and we'll have a presentation on that, and the board should pick which ones are the important ones based on recommendations that we would put forward, and then we proceed in an orderly manner. As I said, the mistake was everything was in a rush, getting past the central housing project. If you recall, we were working all the way to the last day, the last minute, and then these projects started up again. We discussed it in facilities multiple times, and then we chose these projects because the Hollywood roof has been leaking for multiple years, we've been patching it for multiple years, it's leaking into the library multiple times. We've spent money on it, and we thought that this is the time to address it, this is the year, get it done right. The tuck pointing has always been there on the radar, it's just that, again, as I said, I should have brought this up in September or August and said, are we ready to spend under $800,000 in tuck pointing at Hauser, but the other two schools were just done. We just finished Hollywood, we finished Ames. These are the next schools in line. So, right now, as I said, some timeline, the design will proceed, but the board needs to make a decision as to whether they want to proceed with construction in January.
Just from a board timeline, we have December 4th, Committee of the Whole, which is typically not, we can call it a special meeting, we can take action if there's enough discussion tonight and people would be ready to approve MOUs, or it would be December 18th, regular board meeting.
We do need to decide on the award of the boiler at that time.
Right, so the boiler's been approved, the MOU for the boiler's been approved, so that process is moving forward with you and DLA.
And that's already out to
Yeah.
bid.
It's out to bid.
And you're gonna come back to us in late December to approve. Yeah, okay. And then just looking at the schedule here, which is something I knew we had, but it is not something regularly presented or discussed at this board table for summer of '26. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more very large ticket items that.
Potential projects.
Right. But we just need to do a better job of ensuring that all 7 of us are understanding when and what and why and the negotiated of the fees, and that we have negotiated those fees. We feel that it's fair, all that stuff. Not the night that we're discussing MOUs. I think that, to me, that's the core sticking point. I actually don't have a problem with any of these projects. I just would have liked 3 or 4 months or whatever to think about it, and not just, hey, I need you to think and approve tonight $3 million, right? So I think it's more about I think it's more of a self-governance and making sure we're staying on top of informing all of us as a collective group than it is really anything else. Personally, that's just, so I think we could, why don't we, I don't know how much we're gonna have on the next COW meeting, but maybe we can at least pick this up, whether it's an action item or not. You and I can kind of figure out.
Sure.
If any of you wanna reach out to me and provide any additional commentary, opinions or something as far as these go, or anything like that, to help kind of set those agendas or expectations with each other. Happy to have a conversation with you, but Ramesh, thank you for coming. I think you've been a fantastic partner in helping us understand all this stuff as well. So I really did not, personally, I did not look at this as a slight on you whatsoever. I think it was just, like you said, everything kind of went and moved, and we got a little bit out of control, and here we are, and we're going to fix it, and Lord, we'll do better in the future. So
Definitely. Next year, all the projects will come up, we'll do a presentation. We get to pick which ones we want to prioritize and then proceed with design based. We'll get the approval before we start the design, not do the design and then try and get the approval. That's a mistake.
yeah. All right. Thank you. I appreciate you coming down and helping us walk through this as well. Is there any other commentary on the MOUs? We do have a very known lengthy closed session after this, so I'm trying to be a little conscious of time, but also not cutting off the discussion. But we
I think
can
it's a good
continue
time to ask Ramesh any additional questions you have.
Yeah, while you're here.
I mean, Ramesh can come to other meetings. I know you're always willing, but you know, he's here tonight, so if there's other questions.
We love having you, but you live far away. So. Okay. Quick pivot to the tax levy piece of it, or do we need to talk? You want to talk anything to us, Jim, about the tax levy before? Because that's not an action item tonight either, but it will be at the December meeting.
Well, memo doesn't, we do have $3 million in capital improvement money in that budget, correct?
So is that capital improvement? David, I had this debate. Is
Sorry,
it maintenance or is it capital
and
improvements?
It's a little bit of both because of the high cost of the work.
And Jim and I just discussed that, and it's to some extent. So it is capital improvement, and Jim can probably can do a better job than I can explain it. But some of these items are not. It's not necessarily considered capital. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because of the dollar amount, it's because of where the fund it comes from. Correct.
I think capital's more when we did the Ames expansion.
Right.
And so we.
Sorry, I should have said operations and maintenance. Then.
Yeah.
And a lot of these are maintenance, which is kind of getting it up to date.
Just really expensive maintenance.
Right.
Okay. Now, you sold me on that when we talked on the phone the other day. So I think it is just making sure that the budget reflects known projects and not, banking on like surplus going in and things, for future surplus and stuff like that. So
we talked about that extensively.
My next projections will have these numbers on it.
Your memo was fine by me, but I don't know about did anybody else have any questions?
Well, just for clarification's sake, I know that there was a recent, in the last election, there was something that affected levies, at least in terms of the village, that was passed, and I think passed by just a handful of votes. But I'm wondering, does that have any impact to us or to this year at all?
No.
No, nothing came up.
Other than, no, that does not change anything what we're doing.
That was just a change in the way the village paid for, instead of taking out bonds, it's now just built into their budget. I don't think, but from a levy perspective, I didn't read that as having any change on the levy, right?
Net zero impact to the taxpayer.
Right.
Yeah. And reduced interest costs, which is what we've been.
And net zero meaning.
The interest
last
is now going
year,
into the roads
they
instead
were
of back to the banks.
village was paying money for bonds.
Yeah.
Going forward, instead of paying money for bonds, they will be putting that same money into a road improvement fund.
Yeah, that's a good question, Dan. Because you're right, that was like a handful of votes. That was really close.
It was very tight.
Okay. Any other questions for Jim?
Jim, from my read, this is just what we've usually done, which is tax increase to the CPI, the
Right.
P-TEL limit.
And then it's a little bit higher in case there's some new property we don't have a
To
final
capture
number.
new development.
So we're asking for the max that we can.
Are we, I know you've got, I don't know the, I don't want to drag this meeting out any longer. Like, I know it's on video and all that kind of stuff. Could we, are we planning on doing this at the Cal meeting in
Sure.
deeper or anything? Maybe, it might be good just to kind of, I liked your graphs and I
Yeah.
thought the way you outlined it is always really good. So for the public transparency component, I hate to cut this off, but just kind of looking at time, knowing what else we've got on, maybe we can just do a quick overview at the Cal meeting if, I don't want to overstep my bounds, but maybe, could we do that? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. No more public comment. I don't see anybody here, Kathy, so I'm gonna move on. Okay, I will announce future meeting dates, and then we are gonna go into closed session. So future meeting dates will be December 4th, Committee of the Whole at 7 p.m. in the multipurpose room at Hollywood School. December 18th will be a regular business meeting here in the Hauser Learning Resource Center at 7 p.m. The January 1st scheduled meeting, which is a Committee of the Whole, will be canceled for the New Year holiday. January 15th, regular business meeting, 7 p.m. here in the Hauser Resource Learning Center. And is there a motion for the board to go into closed session for the reason of collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees?
So moved.
Second.
Kathy, can you call the roll?
Ms. Clapp? Aye. Mr. Marhold?
Aye.
Mr. Versadi?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Gunn? Aye. Ms. Kalick? Aye. Mr. Weirhead?
Aye.
Should we clarify there's no action after?
Oh, yeah, there will be no, yeah, we will adjourn with no action proceeding post closed session.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Is that I guess we're not adjourned, I don't even know.